Breaking new details just coming in tonight on the Austin deadly package bombings. The police there say that they can't rule out terrorism or potentially hate as a motive here. They say that all three explosions, though, they do believe, by all indications of what they've got so far, are linked. A $65,000 reward is being offered for anyone who can offer information that leads to an arrest in this case that clearly has the city on edge, wondering when the next explosion could happen. In the last 24 hours, police received almost 300 calls about suspicious packages. I mean, you can imagine how on edge everybody in the community is about opening anything. Police also have now identified two of the victims. 17-year-old Draylon Mason, who brought in a package and opened it inside his house that he found on his front steps, and 39-year-old Anthony House. Mason's mother and another woman are also being treated for serious injuries at the hospital. Here is the police chief who we spoke with the other night, updating today. He's Brian Manley. Here he is.
We have lost 2 lives in this community, and we have an additional 2 that have been forever changed. The 17-year-old boy that was murdered yesterday has been identified as Draylon Mason. And from everything I've heard about Draylon, he was an outstanding young man. His mother is in stable condition right now. And the additional victim from yesterday, a 75-year-old Hispanic female who will remain unnamed, is still in critical condition with life-threatening injuries. We are just not going to ignore the fact that the 3 victims that were targeted specifically that we know of were all people of color. We cannot ignore that.
Here now, Mark Wilson, breaking news reporter for the Austin American-Statesman. Mark, what can you tell us tonight?
Well, Austin police are still actively investigating this case, as are members of the FBI and the ATF. What we've learned today is that the reward for any information leading to the arrest of this person has increased substantially. Authorities are offering a $50,000 reward, and that's on top of a $15,000 reward that was offered yesterday by Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Let's take a listen to Mike Garrity, our producer on the scene there, asked a question this afternoon specifically about the packages. Watch this.
Can you say anything about the marking or who it might have been addressed to? Anything at all?
What I will say is we're dealing with cardboard packages that have been placed on people's doorsteps or yards in the overnight hours that are not at all identifiable as a standard shipping box or standard shipping labels.
All right, so that sounds, we had asked that question because you want to know whether or not these specific people were targeted who live in these homes, Mark. Is there any indication, any new developments on that front?
There haven't been any developments on why these people were targeted and how the packages got there. We do know that carriers like the United States Postal Service, DHL, they've all been looked into, and these packages didn't come from them. Police have still been very careful not to describe the packages in extreme detail because only the person who dropped them off or the people who were victimized are going to know that information. So for the time being, police are asking everybody in this area to be very vigilant and to be on the lookout for anything that looks suspicious. They're saying that these bombs can fit in any type of packaging, so anything that is out of the ordinary needs to be reported as soon as possible.
And
as we saw earlier, we've had 265 reports of suspicious packages so far in the 24 hours after the blast yesterday. So police are working all over this city to try to nail these down.
Yeah, obviously this bomb maker is a sophisticated individual or individuals, right?
Yeah, Austin Police Chief Brian Manley said that, to make these bombs, to transport them, to get them to a house without them detonating on their own is a feat in itself, and that it requires some sophistication and skill level. So police still have yet to identify a suspect or motive, but there's definitely danger.
Yeah, well, as was mentioned here last night, it took them 18 years to find the Unabomber. This person has had more concentrated success, unfortunately, so we hope they can catch this guy soon. Thank you so much, Mark. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you.
So as we mentioned, sadly, the youngest victim in these bombings is a 17-year-old Draylon Mason. There he is playing his bass in the orchestra. He was a senior in high school at East Austin College Prep, on his way to the University of Texas in a very competitive music program that he had gotten into. He's also in the Austin Youth Orchestra. Great picture of this young man that we're showing you on our screen now. Joining me now is William Dick, the current conductor and founder of the Austin Youth Orchestra. Sir, I can only imagine how shocking this is for you and everybody involved in the music industry and area in Austin tonight.
Yeah, it's really pretty surreal because this week in Austin, it's our spring break, and it's the beginning week of the South by Southwest Music Festival, which is like, it's Austin at its most joyful, and for it to start out with this news is really quite devastating and surreal. And I must say, I really appreciate your interest in this story, and I hope that it helps all of us that love Drayson. It helps us in the processing of this information.
I hope it does too. You know, when I read about his family and also the family of Mr. House, they were two of the more prominent African-American families in the community. Their relatives and uncles were, you know, involved in a lot of, you know, activities in the area, including, you know, one was a dentist, the other was mentor to UT students. So this is the background that these gentlemen came from. They were very well thought of in the community, weren't they?
Yes, yeah. You know, Draylen, the youth orchestra has been in existence for many years, and like this year is the 25th anniversary of that orchestra, and I have been a conductor of it for a long time, but I'm back this year as like help celebrate the 25th anniversary of it, and I have been working with Draylen since the fall of this year. I've watched him as he grew up, like coming through our ranks and watching him as a little boy and watching him then this year as a senior in high school, like, and as you said, he's been accepted into like a studio at UT. When I remember seeing Draylen, you know, in this orchestra you have kids of high technical level, and that's sort of a given that the kids are going to be able to play. But every once in a while you meet, or you see a kid that just has this spark. When Draylen appeared, you know, in some sense he was kind of incandescent, like, you know, a Rembrandt painting where the light just sort of comes out of him. You know, he's in the room, and it just, his little spirit was there, and along with the technical proficiency he was a young man that was, I think, really headed for. He could do it. I think he could have accomplished anything he wanted to. We have people, alumni of this orchestra, like the first bassoonist of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra in New York City was a member of this orchestra. The principal clarinetist of the Oregon Symphony was a member of this orchestra. There are many string players that are in really big orchestras and university teachers. I think Draylen was one of those kids that was really headed.
It's so sad. It's heartbreaking. And you describe him beautifully, and I can see what you're talking about when we look at these pictures of him. You can see the concentration as he plays, and it is such a tragedy. And I hope that we will continue, obviously, to put as much focus on this as we can, because we need to find the person that did this. This picture that we're showing now is just spectacular. So I'm sure you're all grieving, obviously, and we thank you for being with us tonight, Mr. Dick, and best of luck as you continue working with all of the other children that you have in your care. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.